Hey everybody, on the show today I have Josh, who has been on the program. I think this is his fourth time. He deserves like a medal or something. But he is here talking about his book, The Tome of Intangible Treasures 2. And if you are not familiar with the original interview I did with him for the first book, I will have a link down in the description and probably in a card above me. But this adds boons and rituals to your adventure, so you can now harvest some of the baddies that you are disposing of and use those things to absorb their powers and add them to your own. So this is a really unique mechanic for D&D, and it is compatible with D&D 5e, both 2014 and 2024, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you want to know more, stick around. That interview starts now. Hey Josh, how are you?
Good.
Welcome back. You're like a four-timer, I think. If I had a gold jacket, I'd give it to you.
Yeah, it's always fun talking.
Absolutely. So you were here to talk about a sequel to a book that I will link our original interview up above, but Tome of Intangible Treasures 2, and this is the Hunter's Guide to Rituals and Rites. Why don't you tell me what makes this book different from the first?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with what's similar. So the first book kind of introduced boons and charms as sort of intangible rewards, right? So non-magic item, but sort of magic item equivalent type adventure rewards that you could earn from, say, being blessed by an entity for clearing out a shrine, or like a charm might be granted to you as you start a quest for them, right? To help you along the way, right? This book kind of takes those same concepts, but asks the question of, well, what if you could take someone's power for yourself, right? So let's imagine you hunt I like talking about dragons. So let's say you hunt a dragon, right? And you're like, well, what powers can we take from a dragon, right? Like, can I ritually consume its fire gland and now I get a breath weapon, right? Like that sort of thing.
Yep.
And so it's basically kind of providing a bunch more boons and charms, but alongside monsters that have those abilities, and sort of providing you rules for ritually enchanting yourself with these abilities.
Right, because included in the book is 100 plus new monsters as well, specifically for this purpose.
Right, yeah. So there's 100 monsters in the book, and actually we just unlocked the stretch goal yesterday, or maybe the day before that, to expand every monster with more stat blocks. So in addition to the original 100 monsters, there will be sort of greater and lesser versions, maybe like juvenile or like older or paragon, however it flavorfully works out for each monster, but different stat blocks for different tiers of play. So rather than say like, oh, well, this creature is CR 13, so my party of level 5s are never going to see it. I'll give you like a younger version that you might actually encounter at level 5.
Sure.
Or on the other hand, like if you have a CR 6 or something, it's like, well, I still want to use this creature as like a boss monster, but I want it to be like extra powerful. I'll give you like maybe like a CR 12 or something for that, right? So you'll have 3 different stat blocks for each monster. And then along with that, the boons and charms you'll get might also have greater or lesser versions that sort of mirror like, well, if you defeat a more powerful version of this creature, you can actually steal a more powerful version of the power, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. I like the scalability, because there are a lot of really cool creatures. Thank goodness that built into the monster manual, they have, juvenile dragons and things like that. So you can kind of get that epic scale fight without the absolute devastation that would be like an ancient dragon. Yeah. And I like the fact that you included that, because it's you want somebody to be able to use this stuff. So these boons, you have boons and rituals. What are the differences between the two?
Right. So ritual is the enchanting process to get the boon or charm. So it has a ritual system, and everything in the book is also going to have guidance on compatibility with Heliana's. So if you like their crafting system and their harvesting system, you can actually use everything with that as well. But I'm also providing a ritual enchanting system and also the harvesting system, which are actually based on a crafting system that I made a couple of years ago, but sort of updated with my a little bit more modern take on it. I have a tendency to lean a little bit more narrative in games, although I like my crunch too. So this ritual system uses sort of a progress meter. Rather than saying, well, you have to make a check every day for like 30 days, it's going to be, you can make a check every day, and based on your progress, the check will get incrementally harder. That's how the difficulty for like a higher rarity ability will work. So let's say you're just enchanting like an uncommon charm. Really easy. You probably need to make like one progress check, and then you're ready and you can do the ritual, and then you make your ritual check and you'll probably succeed because the DC won't be too high because it's uncommon. But if you're doing something legendary, that's going to take a lot of work, right? So you'll have to make more progress checks. And these progress checks are going to be either Arcana, Nature, or Religion, depending on what kind of boon or charm it is. So like an aberration, absorbing its power is probably going to take an Arcana check. But absorbing power from a celestial being or an unholy being could be a Religion check. Unholy could also be Arcana. Just sort of depends on like what the creature is and what makes the most sense. But those are kind of the main ways that you would do it. But the progress checks don't necessarily have to be those. So you could imagine that making progress on developing a ritual to enchant yourself with an ability, maybe you visit a local druid and ask them for some help in developing your primal ritual. And that's actually going to be a persuasion check because you have to convince them to help you. But if you convince them, then you get their help and you make that progress. So that sort of thing. It's a progress meter that you're going to build up. And then once you have that full, then you can finally conduct your ritual. And the ritual itself doesn't take too long. It's an hour. And if you fail the ritual, then, depending on how you fail, there could be some negative quirks that come out of that. So maybe you still get the boon, but you get some quirk related to the type of ritual that you're conducting. So again, like kind of going back to aberrant stuff, like maybe you get your telepathic ability that you wanted, but also now your mind is a little bit warped by like cosmic powers, right? In a way that you didn't necessarily want.
Yeah.
And you can remove those through a separate ritual, but like you'll be stuck with it for a little bit as you sort of deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah. I love that idea. I love the possibility of what I'm considering like a critical fail. And so maybe you are harvesting something from something and you're doing your ritual to get your boon and it doesn't quite work right and you get the boon but you grow a tail or something silly. I mean, you could really kind of go crazy with that as a dungeon master.
Yeah. And so like I'll have some basic examples of quirks that you could have, but really they're just examples, right? The DM can do kind of whatever within reason. GM should work with the player, I would say, to figure out something appropriate. And you could base off of what the creature is, right? So like mine are going to be generic because I don't know what creatures you're going to be working with necessarily. But like, yeah, like if you're stealing a power from some, crocodile creature and you grow a tail as a result, that would make sense, right? Like, or maybe like you're taking power from some giant monkey that has a long tail and like, that wasn't the power that you wanted, but now you have this recognizable trait. And so people can, or maybe the power is the tail, right? And then you get a tail as your boon. But
in my mind, I'm thinking that wouldn't be too terrible. I think it'd be pretty cool. But then again, maybe I would add in something like as a non-functional, just limp.
Right. Yeah. Or it has its own mind. Right. You walk by a door. Every time you walk by a door, it grabs the doorknob and you get stuck on it just for a little bit. That would be that minor annoyance. That's like, man.
Yeah. Or it's a kleptomaniac. It goes into people's pockets and you have to roll like a sleight of hand check for it to like start stealing for you. I don't know.
That could be a fun boon.
Yeah, absolutely. There's I love content like this because it does it for me as you're describing it. I'm immediately thinking about how I'm going to use it. And so I think a lot of people watching this will kind of feel the same way. So this is on BackerKit right now. And stretch goals are unlocking as we speak. When you produced your first tome, you had a whole slew of things in there. This one obviously has some new stuff. What is one of your favorite parts of this new tome that you created?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with things in the project in general. I get to do minis this time, which is really fun. I already had one of them has been test printed and I've already painted it and it looks really cool. That's the Executioner Devil and I've got a picture of that on the page. So I'm excited to be doing minis. I do a lot of 3D printing at home. And so having minis for monsters that are going to be in the book is just really cool to me.
Oh, that's so cool.
But then in the book, I love getting art commissioned. So my favorite thing about publishing sometimes is getting to commission all of the artwork. So far, I would say my favorite thing is probably the Void Worm piece that Todd Ulrich did. It's going to be one of the full page pieces that we unlocked. So each of the 5 creature types, one of their like super powerful monsters is going to get a full page piece each. That's the first of the 5, but I've got 4 more that I get to do. So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Having that.
Yeah.
Usually monsters don't get backgrounds, or if they do, it's really simple, right? So like getting to do like a full page with some detailed background is special.
It's unique nowadays, actually. Back in the earlier days, the monster manual had a far greater importance to the provenance of the monster. So obviously during the original days of D&D, we didn't know a lot about these things. Like now you talk about mana cores and things like that, and be like, oh yeah, I know what those are. But back in those days, they gave you their environment and their class structure and where they lived, their habitat, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That is not as prevalent now, partially because I think people take it for granted. But I like the fact you're going to be able to do some of that.
Yeah. I always like to include a little bit about like where they live, if that's important, and kind of what their social structure is in the description. But yeah, I don't usually have like an environment section like they used to have, or they'd have like, when you encounter them, it'll be like a herd of 3d10 plus 50, deer or whatever, right? It's like, we just don't have those sorts of things anymore. That is kind of an interesting like piece of information that I could see bringing back potentially, at least for like a book that maybe focuses more on like environmental things or interesting biomes and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, now, as far as what's actually in the book, do you have a favorite boon or a favorite creature or a favorite side effect that you created that you're like, man, that's pretty good?
Yeah. I have to think. So many good ones. I mean, I guess maybe this is recency bias, but the rune marked elk is pretty cool. So that is actually one that I just came up with about a week or so ago, based on a creature that's in the harvesting scene that I had commissioned for use alongside the harvesting and ritual rules. And it shows a ranger harvesting the heart of a large elk or moose or something, with runes, glowing up its antlers and on its, head and shoulders. And I was like, okay, this is a really cool primal like beast, right? Like what kinds of powers would this creature have? And so getting to like kind of design based on this thing that, an artist created initially just from their own imagination, right? That's always a lot of fun to do. I'm happy with how that turned out. I actually just started it up 2 days ago. And that because the backers actually chose that as their first play-by-poll. So I'm running these little play-by-poll adventures for backers during the campaign to like vote on creatures to hunt. And then, we kind of go through their environment and their behavior and how to hunt them essentially. And then now they get the choice of what they're going to harvest from it, what boon or charm they want to get. So we'll see where that plays out. They have, I think, until tomorrow at noon or something to give their response.
Outstanding. Well, as always, you have the most creative stuff. If folks are looking through our back catalog again, I think you've been on 3 times. I will again link to our original video about the first book because I thought that was fascinating too. And if you want to comment down below and tell us what your wackiest creature creation has been in your adventure, or one that you've encountered, I will get you a copy of this for free. I'll ship it to you. That way, when it is ready, Josh's amazing creation can be in your hands. Josh, as always, I appreciate you coming on. I'll have links down to the backer kit below. Check it out and make sure you're part of that because stretch goals, again, are kicking off and there's some pretty cool ones. I appreciate it as always. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.